Winston Churchill showed remarkable personal bravery in 6 wars. Here are some anecdotes. Number 1. The Cuban War of Independence. Cuban rebels fought a guerrilla war to free their country from Spain. 20-year-old Second Lieutenant Winston Churchill boldly decided to get a taste of war. He would be paid a small sum as a war correspondent. He travelled by ship to the USA and then to Cuba. On December 1st, 1895, near Arroyo Blanco, he was attached to Spanish troops when they were suddenly ambushed. Rebels opened fire. A bullet whizzed past his head, striking a Spanish horse, which gave a whinny of pain. He fought for 10 minutes under heavy fire with great fearlessness before the skirmish slackened. Number 2. The Mohmand Rebellion. The British colony of India was threatened by fanatical Islamic tribes on the northwest frontier. A pagan revolt broke out. Churchill again went as a war correspondent. One day in September 1897, he was on a punitive expedition when suddenly a firefight with rebels broke out. He fought bravely and was conspicuous on a light grey horse. Others took cover, but Churchill rode all along the skirmish line in full view. The gallant young officer was subsequently mentioned in dispatches. Number 3. The Sudan Campaign. The British sought to protect Egypt, a dependency, from the aggressive Mahdist Empire of Sudan. Soldier-journalist Churchill joined the Anglo-Egyptian invasion force. On September 2nd, 1898, the Battle of Omdurman took place on a plain by the Nile near the city. The 320 men of the 21st Lancers were ordered to prevent any retreat to Omdurman. They spotted a few hundred Mahdists and began to gallop, sabres glinting. Lieutenant Churchill, commanding 25 Lancers, suddenly caught sight of over 2,000 enemy hidden in a fold. Instead of fleeing, he pressed on. He narrowly avoided being dehorsed, which could have seen him carved to pieces. 5 of his fellow officers were not so lucky. He killed 4 men with his Mauser 10-shot pistol and burst through the swirling enemy. The battle ended in victory for the Anglo-Egyptian force. Number 4. The Boer War. The Boers suddenly invaded British South Africa and Britain sent reinforcements. Churchill travelled to the town of Escourt. On the 15th of November 1899, his commander sent him out on an armoured train patrol, but waiting Boer commandos had put rocks on the track. The train slammed into them, and the cars were derailed, but not the engine. Boer artillery and rifle fire savaged the survivors. Churchill heroically led the effort to shoulder the overturned cars off the track. This allowed 50 men in the engine to flee towards Escourt. One might think his surrender would put an end to things. However, his audacity knew no bounds. He escaped from Pretoria prison and travelled hundreds of miles to neutral Mozambique. Then, with no respite, he returned to the fight. Number 5. The First World War. In 1915, at age 41, Churchill resigned as Lord of the Admiralty due to the disaster at Gallipoli. He volunteered, when he could have easily stayed as an MP in Westminster, to fight in the Pas-de-Calais, France. While in the trenches, he came under sporadic fire which nearly killed him several times. On the 24th of November 1915 came a very near miss. His commander called him from his cosy dugout to a meeting. This turned out to be cancelled. On his return, he found out a shell had come right through the roof. A fellow soldier's head had been blown off, his blood splattering the dugout walls. Again, Churchill's bravery nearly caused his death. Number 6. The Second World War. Churchill often watched air raids on London in World War II, exposing himself to danger. One night, Churchill was standing on the doorway to the roof of the No. 10 Annex. His bodyguard, heard a misfired British shell incoming and dived onto the Prime Minister to protect him. Shrapnel flew through the doorway and wounded a member of his party. Churchill, characteristically, was not scared, but rather indignant. Churchill's bravery, pugnacity, and fortitude have been matched by few other politicians. Dozens of times he courted death in the service of Britain. This quintessential conservative was a true patriot, which conservatism values highly. His ideas were shaped by his campaigns. For one, he became aware of fundamentalist Islam's utter contempt for liberal democratic values in the Sudan and northwest frontier. Furthermore, in the Boer War, he wrote hopefully of a South Africa where black is to be proclaimed the same as white, and opposed the Boers' denial of civil rights to blacks. This gives the lie to Vandal's depiction of him as a racist caricature and shows he genuinely, if paternalistically, cared about all races' well-being.